Hello, everyone, and welcome back to S.O.S. Sisters Overcoming Stress. I'm your co-host, Denora Nieves, and I am here with the lovely Tia Robinson. Hey, Tia.
Hey Dee, how are you?
Good, good. So it is October, and what are we talking about in October?
We are talking about mental health in
That's right.
October. So, we got this cool stat that I wanted to share with our listeners. Over 44 million Americans, that's over 18%, have a mental health condition.
Wow.
This is something that is representative of a slight decrease from 2015, which I think is interesting, being that you're seeing more discussion as it relates to mental health and mental health awareness. There's been tons of celebrities and just everyday folks sharing their experience and their diagnosis on social media. But yeah, 44 million American adults have been diagnosed with a mental health condition.
That's big.
Yeah, that's
That's
big.
big. And now we're just getting through October 6th to October 12th, which is Mental Illness Awareness Week. So it's a
Yes.
perfect time for us to talk about this. And particularly, because we always like to put our own little slant on things,
Hmm.
what mental illness is like for communities of color.
Yes.
Because I think that that's a big thing in terms of the stigma that we face and that we create for one
Mm.
another. And then when we talk about mental illness for women too, right? Because I think women are often stereotyped as being emotional or
Mm.
as being incapable. And so
Mhm.
we have that added stigma there where we don't want to admit when we're depressed or when we're anxious or when we're feeling whatever it is we're feeling, because so often we're fighting against that stereotype of being incapable, being inadequate,
Yeah.
being unprepared, being too emotional, right? And so we overcompensate by ignoring how we feel. So
Mhm.
let's dive in.
Mhm. Let's do it.
What's your thought on this whole phenomenon, 44 million American adults having a mental health condition and how it plays out in our communities?
I mean, I think it's real. Um, I think it's real just from personal experience as well as professional experience.
Mm-hmm.
The number seems to be accurate, but it may even be a little bit more. You
Mm-hmm.
think about when it comes to people of color and our relationship with even going to the doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
There may be folks out there that have a condition that's not being diagnosed, right? And then you
Mm-hmm.
also couple that with culturally, we pray
Mm-hmm.
things out, right? We
Mm-hmm.
pray a lot of stuff out. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, you don't have to take any pills or medication.
Mm-mm.
You don't need to go
Mm-mm.
sit and talk to anyone. You can do this and,
Mm-hmm.
pray and everything will go away. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but doctors have been created and put here to help and to assist, and they have
Yeah.
a specialty in that area, and I think we should utilize them. And then also, to tag on to what you were saying, as it relates to women, especially women of color, we get tasked with the responsibilities of carrying everyone else's burdens and emotions and
Mm-hmm.
feelings and struggles on our shoulders. And at some point, your shoulders collapse, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're
Mm-hmm.
not dealing with your own feelings and emotions and not caping for everyone else all the time. So, I
Mm-hmm.
think that those numbers are interesting. And like I said, the increase that we're seeing, or excuse me, the decrease that we're seeing is interesting as well, because I feel like there may be some folks out there that haven't been diagnosed just
Or there,
because
yeah, it's
cultural,
underreporting.
exactly.
Yeah, no, that's so real. And here's the thing. Communities of color for such a long time, we have a massive distrust of the medical
Medical
field, right?
field.
Hashtag
Mhm.
Tuskegee, right?
Yep.
And then, you add to that the disproportionate diagnosis of ADHD among children of color. And, there just is a huge, huge literature about the way that communities of color have been impacted by diagnoses, both medical, well, both physical and mental, right? In terms of
Hmm.
health and medical assistance. So there's a huge and massive distrust that I think keeps us from being out in the world with a full transparency as to what we might be experiencing. So
Yes.
definitely there's that. And then you have like we talked about the social stigmas of even people of color and of women being less adequate and being less prepared and being less capable. And so we don't want to put anything out there in the universe that's going to help people confirm or in any way rationalize their
Hmm.
distrust of us, right? Or their disinterest in us or their discrimination of us, right? So you've got both of those things going on. And I think it does often lead to large numbers of us going unhelped
Yes.
and not
Yes.
being able to say, you know what? I'm like this is a little beyond worrying. You know, like
Yes.
I'm stressed out all the time thinking about how things are going to go wrong. Like I may have an anxiety disorder. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Or like I got a whole bunch of situations in my life like I'm unemployed, my wife left, my kid died, all of these massive things going on that may be keeping me from waking up in the morning and actually getting up and doing something, and that may be a sign of depression,
Yeah.
right? Like we're not really set up for that. We're not really set up to it to be vulnerable and to admit that there may be something going on. So
Yeah.
how do we do that better as a community? What do you
Well,
think?
I love the revolution, I will say,
Mhm.
that's happening when it
Mhm.
comes to awareness in terms of people sharing and people talking
Yeah.
about it. Because,
Yeah.
for so many years, it's been something that's been swept under the rug, or, you can't talk about those things. Like, what? You don't want to get up
Mhm.
in the morning? Like,
Mhm.
girl,
You're
you can't
lazy.
talk about that? Yeah, exactly. You get
No
these
distinction
labels.
between depression and lazy, right?
Yeah,
Like you're just yeah.
yeah, and it's like such a like how do you even equate depression to laziness? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
two totally different spectrums.
Yeah.
But, I for one think that just this whole shift in culture when it comes to people sharing and talking about it and education and awareness that's happening is really, really cool. And I think that that's helping to lead the charge in terms of making people feel a little bit more comfortable with seeking the help that they need. Um, and really trying to get some resolution when it comes to certain issues when it comes to mental health, because they're broad as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think another big thing is just supporting each other in the community, right? Supporting one another in the community. Because I think what would often happen is when people came up with some sort of diagnosis that they had been given or some sort of medical explanation for why they were stuck,
Hmm.
other people would interpret it as an excuse.
Yes.
And then the reactions that you got from your peers, rather than being supportive, were stigmatizing, right?
Hmm.
Or you become the crazy one, or you
Yes.
get, and none of that is helpful. And all it does is encourage other people in that are observing that not to come forward or not to seek help or not to want to discuss it or to just internalize whatever they're
Yes.
stumbling with. So I think a
Yeah.
big piece of this is, yes, awareness, but also supporting one another. When people come to you and they tell you that they're really going through something, normalizing that for them is important,
Yes. It is.
and making
It.
it okay to go to a therapist, making it okay to take a break, take a breath, making that
Yeah.
okay, I think is our responsibility.
Yeah. I think it just that point leads me to a thought that I had some years back with regards to working in corporate America, and folks saying, well, I can't go see a therapist or a psychiatrist or a psychologist because, what if the job finds out about it and they're, like
Mm-hmm.
it's in my record. And I'm like, where's this record
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
everyone's been talking about? Like, out of working
It's
in
on my
corporate America
file.
over 15 years, I was like, where's this record in this file
Yeah.
that companies and corporations have access to, that basically says like, oh, this person was treated for XYZ? Like, um I think the awareness piece and being able to talk and being able to share and be able to normalize the conversation is key, especially when you're someone who's suffering and you've got benefits, like
Mm-hmm.
you know
Thank you.
Yeah, they've got
You've
wellness
got an
packages for
EAP
a reason.
system. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Go to take your FMLA if you need to take it,
Yes.
get yourself right,
Yes.
because when you
Yes.
are in a state where you're mentally aware and, you're balanced in all your systems, mind, body, and spirit, then you're more efficient and effective employee. Um,
It
and
is
that
in
comes easy.
everyone's best interest for all of us to be walking around at our best, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't help anybody for us to be running around hiding whatever's going on with us, making believe that we're okay.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't keep it up. It's not sustainable.
It's not realistic, because you look to the left, look to the right. What are those people probably dealing with the same thing that you're dealing with as well?
44 million. I mean, a little over 18%. We're almost at the 20% mark. That's almost 1 in 5.
Yep.
I mean, that's big, right? When you think
That's
about that,
huge.
that's big. Then
And
you
that's
can't gather no
diagnosed.
group of people I know and not have somebody in there that's struggling.
Exactly. And that's and those are
And it might
people.
be me that day.
Exactly.
You
And
know?
those are people that are on record.
Right,
So,
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about what this looks like in our family and friend groups. Because for me, I have a lot of people in my family and friend groups that I believe have undiagnosed mental health conditions. Now, I'm not talking about massive disorders. I'm not talking about like persistent and serious illnesses, but some sort of mental health condition, even if it's just something acute or something situational, right? That might be happening for them.
yes.
And whenever I broach that subject with someone who's not ready, they lash out and they resist. So, do we keep it to ourselves, or do we keep saying to people, "Hey, you might be depressed. Like you may need not just a shower, but to go see a therapist."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what's the right way to handle that? What's your opinion on the right way to handle that with your friends and your family?
I mean, it's usually for me a casual conversation, just with regards to, being aware and being in the loop, and noticing some activities, behaviors, emotions, that they're exhibiting, but that, there are resources and things that they can do to kind of shift that. I always talk to people with regards to trying to make conscious shifts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I try to stay away from, moving forward with, trying to diagnose folks. I'm not a doctor, or
I agree.
I'm not a PhD like Dr. D, but so I just kind of come and attack it from the standpoint of like, hey, relatability. There's been times when I've dealt with anxiety. There's been times when I've been depressed about the outcome when it comes to something, and it's normal. And sometimes we go through these different feelings and emotions because one, we are anxious about what's going to happen in our future, or B, we are depressed about something that, we haven't made peace with in our past. So, just being able to, again, talk to folks from a standpoint of just being relatable, and then encouraging the shift, and then recommending them to someone who might be able to assist with that. I've got a lot of friends in my cell phone that, folks that I refer out to. So, I usually try to look at it and tackle it from that standpoint. Now, granted, sometimes that don't work.
And sometimes you just got to keep it moving.
Keep it moving.
That's the reality. Not everybody is in a place in their lives where they want to shift. And what I've realized is, for me at work, that's a very easy conversation to have, because normally when you suspect that somebody is dealing with a mental health condition, it's because it's impairing their ability to function, right? And you, in a work environment, have every right to notice that and bring that up, because everybody is functioning as part of a team. And when somebody is functioning in a way that is not normative, right, then it affects the team. So it's a much easier conversation to have for me when I'm in a work situation. But conversely, in my friends, peer groups, and in my family,
and your family,
right? It's like their functioning ain't none of my business.
Ain't
So
none
it's
of your
like,
business. You don't
right,
know nothing. I'm
exactly.
not
I'm
one of your
always trying to
clients.
analyze. Yeah.
I ain't your client.
I'm not on the couch with Dr. D. I don't need to hear this. You always trying to analyze somebody.
Shut up and make the macaroni and cheese.
It's that kind of conversation, and people they get resistant and they get offended because they don't want to be put on the spot, and I get it. And it's very difficult to have those conversations and for people to not feel attacked, and I get that too. And so my work has really been in trying to figure out, how do you say something, how do you drop it and run kind of thing, right? Like, how do you say something in a way that's delicate enough for them to hear it with no investment in whether or not they hear it.
Sometimes you can't be delicate. It's a case by case basis. Sometimes you just can't be delicate. It reminds me of, and I know this is probably like super drastic, but I think everybody probably can relate if you have seen this movie. But I think of like The Women of Brewster Place, when Oprah's character's friend, what was her name? Oh my goodness, Lynn Whitfield's character. I can't remember.
Yes.
Her daughter passed away. She was playing with the outlet and stuck something in there, and she wouldn't eat for days. She wouldn't, drink. She wouldn't bathe, and Oprah just had to be like, "Okay, listen, you're not dying on my watch."
Yeah.
Right. So, I think sometimes, we can be delicate, and we can be delicate yet intentional, but sometimes, we got to take the bull by the horn and just shake things up.
Yeah. And also sometimes it's okay to let it go, which is what I'm learning too, is, everybody has their own journey, and you can be aware that somebody is struggling with a mental health condition, and you can try to make them aware of what you're picking up on, just because you see something on your end that they may not see because they're too close, right? And so you can try to make them aware of it, but ultimately it's their journey, and you really have to divest from seeing them any differently, right? Because they're going through whatever they're going through, and they're going to go through it in whatever way is best for them. And that may not be best for us. And then we have to make the decisions that are best for us. And sometimes that means peacing out. And sometimes that means I block you on my phone. And sometimes that means that, I love you from far and I pray. And sometimes that means that I go with you if you want to get help. And if you, decide that you don't, then that's cool too. We have phone conversations, or, however I need to adjust my relationship so that I'm supportive, but I'm not being harmed by whatever the impediment to your functioning is. You know what I mean? And just be okay with that being the relationship, because sometimes, that's all you can do, and people are doing most of the time the best that they can, and that's not going to be the best of what you want all the time, and that has to be all right.
All right. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us on another episode of S.O.S. Sisters Overcoming Stress. Today we were talking about October, and the 16th to the 12th was Mental Illness Awareness Week.
Yes.
And we were talking today about the interesting and complicated relationships that we have with mental illness in our communities, particularly for women of color, and all of the lovely coping strategies that come with being part of that. So I hope that you enjoyed our conversation, and that you will join us for our next episode of S.O.S. Sisters Overcoming Stress. Talk soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.